Well, I wanted to use this, and we're going to start with you on this, Rain. But I do want to pivot into this because this is our last segment here, and I've really enjoyed these "Who has a classic, who hasn't" conversations over the past couple of weeks, and I do want to talk about this just on some music analysis for this last segment here, which is kind of tied to Ye in a way. But I do want to start with what is a classic album. I want to start with you, Rain. What, in your opinion, what does a classic album have to be a classic?
So I think one is the biggest misconception of a classic album is that every song on there has to be great. I think that's where it's like every single song. You might not like every single song, but I think when it comes to a classic album, one, I think it has to start conversation. Like it has to shift. It has to shift conversation. It has to add something new or innovative musically. I think that plays a big part. I think it's so much that goes into a classic album that I'm wrapping my head around it, because all of the albums that I consider classic are so different from each other. But I think the one thing they have in common is they give us a idea of what the zeitgeist was in that time period, what was happening, what it felt like to be in that time period, in that space, and the continuity of an idea or the sounds, the sonics. It's a lot that goes into a classic album. And I also think, with all that being said, a classic album is subjective. Anybody can have their idea of what's a classic. You might think something's classic and I might disagree. So that's
One second
tough.
pause. Yeah, 1 second pause. Mike, where you at on this? Where do you think is a classic? I'd love to hear. Oh, yeah, I definitely want to hear your.
I mean, honestly, I don't like Rain was saying. I'm definitely like squarely on the subjective side, to the point where, like, I like a lot of. I'm an independent rapper. Most of the rap albums that I love are independent, dirty, filthy, underground, broke. Like, you know what I'm saying? Very, very particular, quirky, of a very specific time. Not a lot of people care about it, because probably not a lot of people know about them type albums. And it's not like that's what I seek out specifically. That's just a reflection of my tastes. Like, that's the rock albums that I like. That's the fucking jazz albums that I like. A lot of them. It's a very particular kind of sound. So when I think of classics, I think about albums that mean a lot to me. But I'm not exactly sure how that works in a conversation like this.
Right.
So I feel like I'm going to be more reactive than anything else.
I like that, though. I like that perspective.
Dwan, what's a classic to you?
A classic is something that captures the time and place. I think it's subjective. I think classics are personal, but certain albums capture a time and a place and a time going on in the world. And they illustrate it through their lyrics, through the mood of the sound. I say music is a sonic interpretation of your environment. So it's an album that can take you back to an environment, to a circle, to a time, to a place, and that's going to be subjective, depending on who you listen to. Like, depending on what people listen to. I think oftentimes people get caught up in what everyone else thinks is a classic. Oh, this is a classic because it sold 50 million copies or whatever. It's not about what it sells. You oftentimes find the music that lasts the longest ain't the music that went to the top. You know what I mean? Frankie Beverly and Maze never had a Grammy nor went #1. But damn it, when he come on at the family reunion, everybody reacts. I think classics also, when you go beyond the individual, they capture the mood of a culture and a group of people. And certain songs that when they come on, y'all know all the stuff that I said about 50 Cent. I'm not a big 50 Cent fan at all, but when the birthday song come on, it just does something to us as a people. What the way we react to it, you cannot deny its classic impact when you see what it does to a group of people. So that's my definition of a classic: what it does to the individual and what it does to a culture.
I like that. 1 second applause. BK.
Yeah, I think again, obviously heavily subjective because we all have different rubrics. And so if we have different rubrics, then how are we comparing whatever?
No, that's how you compare. That's what makes it interesting.
Of course, that's why I love that about it. But I think maybe there's a difference between like a classic and a cult classic. If we can kind of just write a cult classic, maybe more of we're speaking to the monoculture, like did everyone give this a spin, whatever. But whatever is a classic album is very personal to you. But I think it has to be, generally speaking, I think it has to be timeless. But like had cultural impact at the time of its release. But like if you put it on now, it kind of transcends time, in my opinion. And it doesn't feel stuck in the era that it was created in, although it could be representative of that time. I feel like it should transcend. It should be timeless. That's what I feel like. It adds a different level of rigor to what you would consider a classic if it has all those components. If it captures the time that it was dropped in, but it still kind of transcends that, depending on the generation, the time, whatever you're listening to it, and the cultural impact. So, yeah.
Word up. 1 second applause. Yeah.
Thought about this because I knew you were going to ask me this.
Yep.
So I'm here prepared to answer. No. I think the most important way to define a classic is a classic requires a modifier before it. So it's a generational classic. It's a regional classic. It's a whatever genre classic. And in order for it to qualify as a classic, it must be part of the canon of that modifier. And I think that's the most academic way I can kind of break down what a classic is. If it's a requirement to explain that genre, that generation, that region, then it's a classic. If it's required in telling that story, then it's a classic. If it's not, then it's not a classic.
I like that. I like how you said that. If it's required to tell the story of that community, essentially.
Whatever that modifier is, yeah.
Whatever that modifier is. I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
I had that ready for you, Justin.
Okay. Now, with that in mind, we're going to play a game called How Many Classics, right? And so I'm going to put different faces on the screen, and we're going to see how many classics we think they have. All right?
And I'm going to see how fast I can type it into Apple Music to see what their albums are.
Look, some of them are easier than others. So people are going to be familiar with some. Not everybody's going to be familiar with all of them. So, okay. But it's also, that's what makes discovery cool. All right, so let's start with this one. Wait, that's not it. This is it. Share screen. Sharing screen. This is what I'm sharing on the screen. Found it. Okay. We got to start with where we were. How many classics?
2, 3.
3.
I'm gonna say 4, but it might not be the 4 we all agree on.
Is Watch the Throne counted as a Kanye West project?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why I went for classic. That was crazy. I'm going 5.
Okay.
Personally, I'm going 3. Just personally, I know his album people gonna consider classics that I thought was trash, but I won't say trash. I just didn't like them. I won't say trash, but I didn't like them. But
you said you didn't like Graduation. That threw me for a loop.
No, I like Graduation. I said up until Graduation. I like the first 3. I like College Dropout, Late Registration, and Graduation. Those are my holy trinity.
He lost you at 808? He lost you at 808?
Yeah, 808 and Heartbreaks. Wasn't a big fan of it. I thought it was creative, but musically it was kind of boring. And then when you get to Life of Pablo, No More Parties in LA, I'd rather listen to Junie Morrison's original version of that, Susie Thunder Tuesday. So
Tuesday is a hell of a song.
I'm dialing back. I'm gonna go 2 again.
Say it one more time, Ray.
I'm gonna go 2. I'm gonna say 2. I said 3, but 2.
Which two are his classes for you?
I'm gonna Graduation.
Wait, you're breaking up. You sound far away. Graduation, what?
My Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Okay. Word. Good choice. 1 second applause. What'd you say, Mike?
I'm gonna change mine to 3. Actually, I'm gonna do College Dropout, Late Registration, and Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Word up. 1 second applause.
Justin, we want your answer. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Look, I think
we going to the next. No.
I'm having a good time with it. You guys are driving so many cool things. College Dropout's a classic. Graduation's a classic. 808's a classic off impact and how it changed the course of and direction that people were moving in. I think of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy as more of a perfect album than I do a classic album, even though I think that, the impact is there. You can't sit here and not look at that, especially with the Good Friday campaign that happened right before that. Like that was just that transformational time in music. I think of it more as a perfect album than a classic album in a lot of ways, because one thing that's really interesting about Kanye, and I think about this in general when I think about music, like what kind of music are people playing in open spaces? Like if you just go to the beach, what kind of stuff do you just hear at the beach? What's pumping out of people's cars? If you just go to a park, you know what I mean? If you walk through, an arboretum somewhere, what kind of stuff do you hear? I tend to run into, despite the fact of how good that album is, I don't necessarily run into that music in open spaces in the same way. Now that's anecdotal, but that also colors my opinion. And I also have Yeezus as a classic because that is another one of those shifts. With Yeezus, then you get Travis Scott, you get Playboy Cardi, you get Yeet, you go down a whole nother timeline. And so for me, he has 4 classics.
Did you say Late Registration?
I did not say Late Registration.
You don't like Late Registration?
I love it. It's amazing. But to me, Late Registration is just a more dynamic College Dropout. He goes from violins to full orchestras. A lot of the concepts are the same. The skits are basically the same. He has more of a personal element to it. But what was happening on Late Registration, outside of being bigger, had already taken place on the College Dropout. Impact is huge for me when I think about classics.
I think that's why I removed College Dropout from I had it, but I feel like College Dropout was just a better version of what Jay-Z did with the Blueprint. I feel like it was already done. I feel like the shift started with the Blueprint.
I mean, I think definitely for the production that Kanye offered, but the Blueprint also had Bink on it. It had Just Blaze on it. You know what I mean? Like there was more happening.
I just got to say, and I guess this is what's informing my opinion too, is just growing up on the South Side of Chicago and how big all of them first few albums were in terms of us having like a national rap dude. You know what I'm saying? Like all of that early music felt very important.
Wow.
I feel that.
All right, moving on. That was great. 2-second applause. Okay. You got 2 seconds now. All right, here we go.
In the chat said, why do El Janelle think she's in charge of the applauses?
She's the Duchess of the applause, please.
That's funny. All right.
All right, who I'm going to type in next.
All right, we got, you got to get this one. Get this one out the way. Get this one out the way.
Oh, brother.
How many classics? How many classics?
Well, according to Kendrick Lamar, he got 0.
That was cap.
That was cap. But it fit in the song. You know what I mean?
All right, let's see.
This is tough.
For me, I'm just sorry. For me, 0. I thought all that shit was lollipop music. But I get why people will say because the music was pushed and played everywhere you went, you was gonna hear his stuff. So I can get why people call it classics. But I'm a musicologist and I hear where music comes from first. So when I hear a lot of the lines he used, when I hear a lot of the samples, I'm thinking about who said it first. So to me, for Drake, nothing. I'd rather hear the original. And he's in that singing, the nigga humming. They ain't singing. And they get credit for R&B. Fuck out of here. I'd rather hear Hunte rap than him. At least Hunte got soul. So for me, nothing.
Damn, that's rough.
It ain't got nothing to do with Kendrick. That's how I felt long before this beef.
Okay. Okay, that's hard right there.
Well, I disagree.
Hey, shout out Hunte though.
I know. I know. Now that part I might agree with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now that one, I would rather hear Hunte rap. But I keep trying not to talk after OG. He be going in, trying to duck. But anyway, Nothing Was the Same is definitely a classic. There is no getting around that. I am trying to see if anything else was a classic. And I am leaning towards no, but I'm wondering if I'm hating. So I want to listen to everybody else and see if they will change my
I am
mind.
going to copy off of my neighbor's test and see if it adds up to the answers that I have.
Just to
When
see
in doubt, look about.
Thank you. Do I have any knee-jerk disagreements with them, or can they sway me? Stay tuned. Let's see. But nothing was the same as a classic. So right now I'm at one.
You got
Nothing was
one.
the
So
same.
we have two people who have answered. We've got one classic so far between the two of them.
That's fucked up.
Oh,
That's great.
I will also not move the needle much. There has only been I probably only listened to 4 Drake albums on purpose. And of the 4 I listened to, I only really like one of them, and I don't ever go back and listen to that one. So I don't know if I would even call that one a classic. The only one I really liked was "If You're Reading This, It's Too Late."
The one he didn't write.
Well, I don't know. Did he write any of them? Like, I get confused about all of that.
It's tough.
I guess we don't know.
Tough.
I say Thank Me Later, Take Care, and Nothing Was the Same, just off of these are just like formative, like 2010, 2011, 2013. I was like 0 years old. And so this is just like the soundtrack to like my adolescence, to be honest. But I think a lot of the songs still like, I don't know, I think we were talking last week about it. And at the ends of the club, they just spammed a bunch of songs from Take Care and added a couple from Nothing Was the Same. And just the whole space. Yeah, no, I don't know. It just brought back, and like we were like rapping his verses along with him, and it sounded cool, and we were able to suspend belief for a little minute. So I feel like that still definitely sounded like, damn, oh my God, I used to like listen to this on the bus on the way to school, but then also felt still very relevant and like timeless at the time. We were listening to it in 2026. So those are the 3 I'll go with.
3. That's what's up. 1 second applause. Who's left? We got Rain. You over here thinking?
I got to spin my head around like, now don't piss me off now, Rain.
I don't want to be a Drake hater, but I don't want to give him too much props if it's not really deserved. All right. I think Drake does. All right. So one thing for sure is Drake doesn't have an album that I just don't like. So I do like his music, and I think he makes pretty good albums. A classic. I'm not sure if Drake has a classic. I would have to say 0. If You're Reading This, It's Too Late is the album I like the most, and Nothing Was the Same right after that. But do I listen to those and feel like this is like a classic album? I don't think so.
Wow, man, y'all hard on the boy.
Wait, just before you say,
y'all hard on the boy out here.
But I
went easy on the boy
a lot. I feel like he has great music.
I don't. You definitely did not go easy, Dwan.
Oh no, I was easy on Drake.
That's easy.
That's definitely easy on Drake because yeah, I personally I don't like mimic artists. I love originality. I like when I see somebody come in mimicking. He's an actor, you know what I mean? He's an actor and he has a good team behind him, Universal behind him, and you know he was put on. He was kind of those are my club years when Take Care and all that stuff was coming out, and I remember being in the club hearing Drake like 7 times a night. Like, okay, why is this shit being forced up on us? Like, damn, it's a lot of hot stuff out here. Why is he on everybody's song? Like, I don't even like this nigga, and I'm still listening to him.
But how's the club? What happened in the club when they played the Drake song?
Yeah, it was. Let me tell you, the Drake era club. You know what? Wasn't nobody dancing. We was all on our Sidekick too, and then we was all on our Blackberries, and then we was all on our iPhone 4s. Wasn't nobody dancing. People act like when Drake come, people were like, "Well, they don't play Drake in a club." Ain't nobody dancing. Everybody on their phone texting when Drake is on in the club. It ain't like he was doing what the cats in the 90s was doing, where they had to get you up off your seat and dance. So it's like when Drake come on in the club, everybody looking at their phone and looking at everybody else and judging their shoes and judging what they got on.
I disagree with that one. I've been in the club and Drake records go crazy.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So
right,
I gotta
right.
disagree with that one.
I just went crazy popping my ass to that
Yeah,
shit.
nah, Drake definitely set the tone. Drake definitely has great music. Like I said, he doesn't have an album that I dislike.
Is
I like his
anybody
album.
dancing was the question. I ain't talking
Yeah,
about
for sure. For sure.
I ain't talking about
for
rapping
sure.
about or doing this. I'm talking about dancing.
For sure. When that
that
first
could be
couple years of
fine.
Drake was insane.
That could also be a
When he was on every
generational
hook
thing.
from Stay Scheming to I'm on One and all that stuff, like, yeah, Drake was definitely, he had the club rocking.
Mm.
Yeah,
Even
and I
later
think-
on, even like started from the bottom and Worst Behavior, even Hotline Bling and One Dance. Them records come on, people moving.
Yeah, they doing this.
That's everybody though.
I mean, that's what that's
Not
just
me.
how the
I
people
get it.
dance.
But I'm saying there was a time our music, like even Soldier Boy made you dance. I hate Soldier Boy. That but when
I
that
know you
shit
ain't
came
talking about
out,
doing a Superman. I
people
know
was
you ain't talking about
actually
doing
doing a
Superman.
dance. So it's like I gotta give credit to that.
Bro.
I mean, Goody Mob. I love that Goody Mob song. They don't dance no more. People don't dance no more. All they do is this.
Right.
Because the BPMs
Yeah, I do think it's
ain't
a
right.
generational difference because, like, thank God I snuck to the club early or I would have missed it. But there was a time when you really could dance, sweat, look crazy in the club, and there was no evidence when you left.
Right.
Growing up in Chicago, like going to house parties, like I used to like to go party with the old folks because the old folks were literally freaking on the dance floor, was really getting down, like you really coming out of there with like sweat everywhere when you leave.
Right.
And I do think, like you said, Sidekick, iPhone 4, all of that is actually more of the cause of the lack of dancing in the club. than it is-
Not even. I mean, the club culture changed because the dance floor got removed from the club.
Yeah, the
that's
Remove the
section
dance floor,
culture.
put mad VIP tables, so now everything is
Yes.
bottle sections. There's no dance floor.
That's
I
the point.
remember Drake coming out during that change when it was still a dance floor, Club Element, Las Palmas, you know, those days in Hollywood, those Ritual, all those years. In music, there's a science to music. And going back to how our music has been taken from us, Black people dance between 104 and 126 beats a minute. You got to first off put us somewhere in that pocket. 116 is the California dance tempo. 126, you got to first put us in that tempo. Then you got to give us the chords. And then you got to give us the layering, because music gives you an involuntary response. When it's produced right, when it's put together for the intentions on dancing, you will dance. Now, they moved the dance floor because what happened? The music went from 110, 100 BPM to 92 BPM, 86, 96. When you're at that mid tempo between 90, that kind of makes you kind of sit back and vibe out. Just like 70 BPM is going to get you to contemplate and think. Just like 6/8 time is going to connect to your heart. And if you want to make it emotional time, you put it in 6/8. Music is very scientific. So when the Drake music came in, there's nothing scientifically in the production that's going to compel you to dance. That's why, to me, I look at it just like it's cool. But when I listen to the tempo, hear the tempos, hear the chord changes, it's like there's nothing in there that's motivating you to get up and dance. Now, you may like the song, and if you like the song, you're going to react to it. But as far as dancing, ain't my type of hype. Come on now, when that shit come on, you go dance, nigga.
1 second applause. Kid Black. Classic right there.
Back out. I wish somebody would play that in the club right now. I'd be like, get out the way, you little ass
Right.
kid.
And you ain't crazy for that.
All right. We got a couple more here. All right, here's one.